Food loss and waste is a big issue and definitely relevant for climate negotiations. I mean, I don't know if you know, but 1/3 of all food that's produced is lost or wasted between the farm and the fork every year. That equates to about nearly $1 trillion worth of economic losses around the planet. It also consumes about 1/4 of all the water that agriculture uses. It takes up land area the size of China. Imagine planting all of China with crops and livestock, and then every year throwing it away or letting it rot, right? I mean, that's how much of a scale we have here on food loss and waste. And on greenhouse gas emissions, all the emissions associated with the food that we grow and then either lose or waste accounts for about 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions. 8%. In fact, if food loss and waste were a country, it'd be the 3rd largest emitter after the United States and China. That's amazing, right? So of course, tackling food loss and waste is an important climate issue. One thing we're trying to work on here at the climate COP in Marrakesh is to get the national, the NDCs to actually include reducing food loss and waste into their national plans. Although in the Paris Agreement, for the first time, we see a lot of countries actually tackling agriculture as both a source of emissions as well as a means of reducing emissions. Too few countries still yet have explicit plans for using, tackling food loss and waste as a means of achieving their climate goals. And so one thing we want to do is actually get food loss waste reduction into climate strategies by governments. We actually see that actually though more in terms of companies. A lot of companies, including members of the Consumer Goods Forum, the world's 400 largest retailers, have already made a commitment to reduce food loss and waste within their operations by 50% by the year 2025. That's an amazing, great first step towards tackling this issue. We now need more companies, especially those further upstream, the agriculture producers of the world, to make similar goals and thereby reduce food losses closer to the farm and in storage. If we had that, then we'd have basically a farm-to-fork approach from the private sector on reducing food loss and waste. One thing we've done is WRI, along with the Dutch government, earlier this year, we launched an initiative called Champions 12.3. It is a coalition of about 40 leaders from the private sector and the public sector dedicated to inspiring ambition, mobilizing action, and accelerating progress towards Sustainable Development Goal Target 12.3. That's the SDG that focuses on reducing food loss and waste by 50% by the year 2030. These leaders have been very active. UNEP's the United Nations Environment Program's new executive director, Eric Solheim, is a co-chair of Champions 12.3. We've been very active this past year, helping governments set targets for reducing food loss and waste, engaging governments and companies on helping them to measure food loss and waste, because we all know that what gets measured gets managed, and then actually taking action. Many of the champions have been leaders in their fields, whether it's with NGOs or companies or countries. Many of them have been the pioneers in taking concrete actions to reduce food loss and waste within their borders or within their supply chains. And so these champions continue to engage their peers to raise the ambition and get many others to actually take aggressive action on tackling food loss and waste.